you receive that light and that understanding where all of a sudden your mind is just taken to places and you see things from a perspective you never could have comprehended. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I totally get now why, Brigham said what he said. You're like, maybe he was the worst explainer ever, or he just chose never to do it. Like he would say something with no context.
That's part of it. That is part of it.
Part of it. And then you realize after a certain amount of study and growth, you're like, oh, Brigham probably understood this. Like, I see it now. Like, I get it now.
He was operating at another level.
He was at a completely different level. That's the problem, because he didn't care what level anybody else was at. He was just going to give you the truth. So,
part of the difficulty, we actually talked about this in our Gospel Mysteries podcast on the Trinity. Part of the difficulty is, like, with the Restoration came new vocabulary. And a lot of times, the restored vocabulary, like, we're using the same words as traditional Christianity, but we're using them to convey different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have a Brigham Young, or you have somebody who's saying certain words that sound like, traditional Christian words, but the context, the meaning in his head when he's saying them is different. And over time, to some degree, the church has kind of aligned itself back with traditional Christianity on certain topics, where we're trying to share that vocabulary in the name of common interest, right? Kind of as a bridge to maybe help bring, make it easier for people to come to the church and understand, transition into restored doctrine. But that takes us further away from how Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were kind of redefining some of these concepts. So there's just some disparity there that's hard to that's context that's hard to explain, because they're the same words. It's meaning behind the words, and that's just like cultural context that sometimes is completely lost in the history books. Like, you really got to understand what was going on and what they were thinking at the time. Like, you got to go read journals, diaries, and figure out other conversations that were going on to really get a grip. Like, you got to understand the conversations Joseph Smith was having with the 12 and with the brethren before he died. Like, that was more probably along the lines of King Follett, where it's like he's redefining what the word God means to some degree. Like, he's adding a whole nother level of depth and understanding to to the word God and how we conceptualize God and man's relationship with God. So now when we say we're talking about God, and you're talking to a Trinitarian who's talking about God, well, now we have different ideas in our head when we're talking about God. So we're using the same word, but it's different. The context is different now. And so that's just how do you convey that easily to somebody? It's only by revelation. It has to happen by open heart, real intent, personal revelation. It's the only way.
Well, Brigham had apostles with him that didn't even understand what he was talking about half the time. So, and they were there, and so I was like, okay, it takes effort to truly understand some of what he was trying to convey.
Okay. We need, if we ever get merch, I think one of our merch it should just be Brigham was right. That's all it needs to say.
Yeah. Agreed.
Just let people assume whatever thing is controversial about Brigham Young. That's what we're talking about. Thank you for watching. If you found this content spiritually enlightening, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Like the gospel, these little things make all the difference, and it helps the algorithm push out better content for everyone to enjoy on YouTube.